Forward. Halt. Left. 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 Right. Your left. 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 Right. Down, down. Down, down.
Arkansas boy with a lifelong plan took the oath like his old man, then turned around proud and shook his hand. L.A. kid stood right behind, took a deep breath and signed on the line, while tears streamed from his mama's eyes. They hopped right up on that Greyhound bus, swapping stories. They laughed and cussed, and they talked about the girls that they loved. They made a pact, shined up their boots, got the call before it hit the news. No clue what they were about to do. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Finish This Fight Hour. My name is Glenn Baker. I'm your host for the Finish This Fight podcast. It is Wednesday, 3:30 Eastern time down here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I don't know where you're watching this thing from, but Fort Lauderdale, it's 3:30 Eastern time. Y'all, doing what I do over the last several years, I get introduced to a lot of interesting people. And I'm going to introduce someone to you here in just a few moments. But every time, I should know better. I should know better, y'all, than to bring in these guys that are in shape, good looking, tall. Just, they piss me off, man. It's a pissed off American soldier. And so I got to bring my shades with me. It increases the hotness factor by 50%. The problem is, after I got jacked up with the cornea transplants, I don't see very well with them. So then I got to go back to looking like a guy that got run over by a truck. Hey, we're going to change things up. There's a new commercial that I need to run real quick. Let's get the business out of the way. Y'all, we are sponsored by Q Network, and we have a television station now. And we've got an opportunity. Do you have cable? Do you have cable? Do you have satellite? Do you have streaming? Do you spend money on TV? Here's something I want y'all to look at real quick, because we could save you a ton of money and it can help the Patriot Prayer Network. Hang tight. Here we go.
Heard of Q Broadcast? It's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high cable bills and moving away from streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others for something better. Q Broadcast. For just $60 a month, you'll get access to every channel you could ever want, including HBO, Cinemax, and Starz. And the best part? There are no contracts, no hidden fees, and you're free to cancel anytime. With Q Broadcast, you can enjoy streaming live TV, movies, and top series on up to 5 devices at once. Whether you're at home or on the go, Q Broadcast makes sure your entertainment is always at your fingertips. Imagine being able to watch all your favorite channels from anywhere, anytime, without any restrictions. We're talking about thousands of movies, hundreds of TV series, and a huge library of live channels, all in one place. And don't forget video on demand and pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
Y'all go to Q. Go to Q. If you're paying a bunch of money for a bunch of cable, HBO, Cinemax, all that stuff that costs so much extra, go to Q. It's all included. It's going to help the Patriot Prayer Network. It's going to help you. So today, I've got a young man that was trainer to the stars. Tall, good looking, in shape. I already don't like him, but I think I'm going to change my mind here for just a minute. Y'all say hello to Scott Jansen. Scott, welcome to the podcast today, my friend. How you doing?
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Good. Well, I'm looking sexy as socks on a rooster today. Once I put my shades on, I'm a little beat up after that. But, man, I'm excited to have you. You and I got introduced to each other a week or two ago, and you've got some pretty amazing things coming up. You're getting ready to launch a podcast. You've got the Fast.Eat.Live program. You're down in Texas now, out of California. Life's good, man.
Yeah, it's been a complete 180. So I've been enjoying God's grace and blessings, and it's been a pretty amazing last 18 months to get down here. We were recently in Seattle for the last 10 years, and so we left the People's Republic of Seattle and came down to the Texas stronghold here in Argyle, Texas. So
I can't say enough about Seattle. But I will. I won't say any more. I can't say enough. I actually live in the communist capital of Florida, though, in Broward County. So we live supposedly the freest state in the United States, but Broward County didn't get the memo.
Yeah. There's always those holdouts, right?
There is the holdouts, yeah. So, Scott, tell me a little bit about you. Growing up, you said you grew up in Southern California, though.
Yeah. I'm a surfer from Huntington Beach, California. I grew up there, and I was just super blessed to live in a place where people vacation, kind of like you do now. So people come to Huntington Beach because it's Surf City, USA. They have the U.S. Open of surfing there. They have the X Games. So it's pretty special place to grow up.
Brother, when I was in Oklahoma, I went to Huntington Beach. Had a business partner who lived out there, and first time I'd been to the West Coast. Never saw waves like that before. Y'all got great surf in Huntington Beach.
Yeah.
It was July. I was surprised at how cold the ocean is, though.
Yeah, they call it it's a big trick, really, because they call it June gloom and gray May. So if you come out in May and June, the water temperature hasn't risen, and the land mass, so it affects, and you get that marine layer, and so the marine layer just hovers in and about a mile to it, just foggy. It's kind of like what San Francisco is known for. But any other time of the year, you can come in the dead of winter, and it's sunny and gorgeous in Huntington Beach.
See, but I was expecting nice, warm water. I got in, and my butt was cold, bro. Yeah. It blew me away. I'm thinking warm water, beautiful skies, and it was nice out. It was warm. It was hot.
Yeah.
Water was cold, though. Blew my mind.
Yeah, for sure, but not as cold as Seattle. That's for everyone. Everyone said, "Hey, did you get a lot of surfing in when you're up there?" And absolutely not. I'm the village idiot who brought all my surfboards up with me when we moved up there. And yeah, they never touched the ocean in Washington.
No, buddy, I'm out, man. And here's the crazy thing: on the East Coast here, where we've got the Atlantic, the water is warm down here almost all the time.
Yeah,
you can go out at Christmas on Fort Lauderdale Beach and get in the water, and you're fine.
I got to get out there. It's a place I've always wanted to travel to.
Well, come on out, man. I got some extra room. So, Scott, you grew up in Huntington Beach, Southern California. You grew up surfing. What else was going on with you as a kid?
I played every traditional sport. Baseball, football, and surfed, of course. And then football became my big love. It's what I played. I went to Huntington Beach High School, which is known for Tony Gonzalez. He was 2 years behind me, and I played with his older brother Chris. But at the time, we were, just known as being a surfing school, and we were the punching bag to modern day high school out there, the football powerhouse.
Well, if anybody remembers, what was the movie when I'm a little bit older than you, but Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That's what I think about when I think of Huntington Beach High School.
You think of Spicoli, right? Yeah.
Spicoli, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't too far from that. My idols at the time were not the biggest academic stars, and they as either football players or surfers, and neither one of those guys prided themselves on academics. So.
Well, speaking of football, you ended up playing some football in high school and then went on to college, right?
Yeah, I went to I had a really rough road, so I've had a lot of adversity stacked in. It's been like feast, famine my whole life, peaks and valleys.
Well, you actually have to have that testimony to be on this show.
Yeah, which is perfect.
Yeah, finish this fight. You've got to have gone through a battle to even qualify to come on this show.
It's been a journey the whole way, but it's the interesting part is that you could see God's hand on me the whole way. And so as you're choosing as a young man where you're going to be, and I just loved athletics and loved the body. And so out of high school, I didn't get any looks because we were a running school, and here I was a wide receiver. So I went to a junior college, and the very first game I tore my ACL. So there was the first little bit of of adversity, and it took me a year and a half to rehab my knee and get back out. But out of that came a love for physical therapy, and then I ended up later coming back and going into physical therapy, thinking that was going to be my profession. So it was an interesting turn, but I grinded through it. I ended up getting up to University of Wyoming. So I was a cowboy up at University of Wyoming and fell in love with that wide open country. And I think that's why Texas and Montana and Wyoming kind of have my heart.
Man, there's almost nothing like it, brother. I'm telling you, it's. I grew up in Northeast Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So people think of Oklahoma and they think of being flat and ugly. Well, Oklahoma's got so many different environments. Northeast Oklahoma, very hilly, very green, lots of lakes, beautiful. You get down south of that, there's some mountains. You get out to the west, it's red dirt. I was in a very beautiful part of the country, and I love that. Now I still miss it to this day because I've never seen anything so flat in my life as South Florida.
Yeah, I live in Argyle, and so everybody from the West Coast, all my clients and friends and my wife's family, they think of Texas and they think, oh, Dust Bowl. They think it's West Texas, and we're in between Fort Worth and Dallas, just north of that. You know where I'm at, but for your listeners, and it's beautiful here. Trees everywhere, stunning. So it's like you get to the edge of the trees you get to the edge, and then where Dallas at, it starts the trees, and it's just beautiful. And we don't have the humidity up here, and so I'll tell you, DFW, if you get north, like where I'm at, as you'd be heading into Oklahoma, right? But you get up here, and it's really pretty. There's longhorn cows and horses everywhere.
Do you know anything about mesquite now?
I do. It's pretty fun. And I've kind of become I dabbled with it a little bit. I actually moved my Traeger down here, but now I've been putting briskets on my Traeger, and I'll smoke anything these days. So salmon and all kinds of stuff. Man, I just had some brisket yesterday. Yeah. First time in 19 years I found a decent barbecue joint down in South Florida. It was pretty good. Wow. Yeah. So let's do this thing a little bit different, Scott. Instead of going in chronological order, what I'd like to talk about first is your fights. Yeah. We just talked about that. To get on this show, we've got to have had some battles. And you mentioned something about God using you and allowing these things to happen in order to use you. And I'm going to tell you, every single person I know that's in this battle, every single Christian that I know that's making a difference, and I'm not talking about words, I'm talking about actions, have gone through some sort of hell. They've gone through a battle. And that, I'm telling you, my friend, and listen to me, that are watching and listening right now. Faith, the word says that without faith, we can't please God. Uncle Glenn says that without challenges and trials and battles, you're not going to find faith. Faith is not found in the easy spots. It's not found on the couch. It's not found in comfortable positions. Faith is found when all hell is breaking loose. And if God doesn't, then you're done. And so, Scott, let's talk about some of that stuff. You said you went off to college, you blew out your ACL. That was the first one. Let's talk about some of that. Yeah, the first adversity obviously was, when I was just gifted, and let's just call it what it is. And that's why I always say, like, it's interesting that the packages that God puts us in. So I was a natural, they call it kinesthetic awareness. Like I just was gifted at everything. I didn't have to think about balance. I didn't have to think about speed and vertical leap. I was just given those talents and just directly from God. So it was that work ethic, and the hard work is the only thing that I ever credit to myself. And I really started that path after I tore my ACL. It was a big wake up call. It was like, could I do this rehab to get back there? I wanted to play in the NFL, and that was my goal. And it really was kind of all I focused on. So doing the rehab, doing the hard work, it was grueling. So if anyone's ever had a massive knee injury, I had what's called the unhappy triad. So it's your ACL. I tore my MCL, which is that medial collateral ligament, and then ripped off the horn of my meniscus. So I had the unhappy triads, what they call it. There's only one thing worse, and that's if you tear ACL and PCL. But anyway, the even to this day with our modern technology, it's still, a solid 10-month rehab to get out of it. Back then in 1991, it was a journey. So I had also switched positions. So it was one of those things. They were like, hey, if you want to get to the NFL, you should switch to tight end. You're 6'4". We can pack some weight on you. I was like a receiving tight end is what I ended up being at Wyoming. And that's why I went to Wyoming, because that's where Jay Novacek's from the Dallas Cowboy fame. And they air it out, man. It's a great place to go. Ironically, again, once I got up there, they had a great running back, and we ran the ball for 2 years with Ryan Christopherson. He ended up playing when they had the expansion team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. He went to there and set a bunch of records as a running back. So I've had a little bit of bad run all the way through, and just so that was my first dose of reality. And here's the thing: I think if people, if they're ever in the grind and they're listening to us now, you can kind of set some benchmarks of like, what is it that I can get through? What are the lessons from this? Where am I? Like my resolve in this. And there's science has just now come up with this. It's called your ACC, so your anterior mid-cingulate cortex in your brain. And it's this little section in your brain when you do the hard things. Say it's going to be cold water immersion. Like if you jumped in that California water and it was cold and you're going to go surfing. Or if you do the weight training, or you are going to be disciplined with your food and your intake, that section of your brain gets a little bigger and a little grown. So if you look at, fighter pilots, they're going to have massive ACCs because they're constantly doing the hard work and putting that in those lessons. So I really do believe that these things define us and they give us the ability to have that resolve. And so that was the very first part for me was learning how to have that. And so one thing I did when I first got to Wyoming, and I said, it's -10 outside, and I'm a Southern California surfer. So, going through some adversity. Matter of fact, I wore the cold weather gear the first time there was snow on the ground when it was 30. And I came trotting out to practice, and they're like, Jansen, what are you doing? Go take that off. We'll tell you when it's cold enough to wear that gear.
Right.
So it was like rehabbing my knee, getting back into physical shape, having to grind through that, the weather, having the discipline level go up. Oh my gosh, you go play Division I football, and it's a big deal. They control every minute of your life.
Sports, people don't get it unless you've been there.
Yeah.
You go from high school where it's fun, you're working, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But it's fun. You got all your buddies there. You go off to college and it's now a job.
100%. And it's even more so now because now these athletes are getting paid. But I told myself at that point, it was that first time that ACC in my brain was like big, and I knew it. And I was like, I can count on this moment that no matter what life throws at me, I'm physically beat up, and I was challenged emotionally and intelligently because I was having to go to classes. And it was the first time that life was real hard. And I was all alone up there. I was homesick and missed California, missed the easy life. You get pretty accustomed to sunny days and warm weather. And
well, there is something to be found about that too, Scott, because greatness is never found in comfortable position. It's never ever have you seen anybody that was great at anything that got there being comfortable?
Exactly.
It's coming outside of that comfort zone. Now the challenge for Glenn Baker at 57, 58 years old is focusing on more than one thing and not getting comfortable in everything else. And that's some stuff we'll talk about in a little while.
Yeah.
So you started out your college career with some pretty rough things happening. You got through that. You did pretty well. You didn't make it. You didn't go to the NFL, I'm assuming, if I remember right.
Didn't get that chance, no.
Okay. So what happened after that?
Then I came back and decided what I spoke about earlier. I came back and said, well, what do I want to do with my life? And I love the human body so much. I ended up going back to, after I left Wyoming, I came back to Cal State Fullerton, and then got a kinesiology degree. So it's like, it's what you see athletic trainers on the sidelines for sports teams. It's that degree that you have. You can go on and go to PT school, which was my goal, was to go to USC and go to physical therapy school after that. So I started working at Pro Sport Physical Therapy, started rehabbing athletes, putting my degree to work, and just loved it. Loved being impactful for people's lives and taking them through that adversity, because someone tears an Achilles tendon and it's life-changing. And so being able to help them through that, I got to do what I love the body, love the science, and I've always been a humor guy, and so I was always using levity and trying to help people as they're going through rough times, and just make their life a little bit easier, a little bit better as they progress and see results.
So athleticism and health and all that stuff's been part of your life, most of your life, it sounds like. You went on then to become a trainer. You left that and became a physical trainer for yourself, worked for yourself, had a gym. Let's hit that, and then let's talk about the biggest challenge of your life.
Absolutely. So interesting thing, they talk about real estate is it's always location.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing because when I decided I didn't want to be a physical therapist, and the way I describe it is physical therapist, if you're going to look at it as an alphabet, they literally go from A to G every day. So they take people when they're either coming out of surgery or they have an injury, and they're going to rehab them in that first stage. Well, eventually that prescription is going to run out, or money's going to run out, and they have to release them back to what we call phase 3, just normal life and going to your own gym or doing that.
Back to the wild, man.
Yep. So physical therapy really is the front end of that loop. And I didn't love that. I thought I liked the idea of a bigger general population. And I liked the idea of getting ahead of the injuries. And I love the idea of being able to help every demographic. Although we got to rehab, I was at Pro Sport Physical Therapy, and one of my mentors was Joe Donahue, who owns all the different Pro Sport physical therapies now. He's got lots of them.
Yeah.
Very successful. And he came that football route there as well. But he was my mentor, and I learned a ton from him. But I took that information and then opened up my own gym. And when you get the location part, I literally opened up my gym, like a blind squirrel finding a nut. I opened up my gym on Pacific Coast Highway in Newport Beach, right on Goldenrod and if anyone knows where that's at, right on Goldenrod and PCH. And every day people like Kobe Bryant were coming in my gym. So it wasn't because I was a genius trainer, because I was still in my early 20s.
Right.
But I was surrounded by the very affluent CEOs who taught me a lot about life and business. And then that started where I started to get a funnel from Pro Sport, and I started working with athletes, and it really blossomed from there.
Up to that point, though, you had a really powerful life lesson that I don't want to gloss over.
Yeah.
You went back to school, you got your degree, you got your specialization, you were in the physical therapy world, which is where you thought everything was going to be at. And then lo and behold, it's not what you thought.
Yeah.
It didn't ring every bell that you hoped that it would. And you were wise enough in your 20s to say, this is not what I want. What else is there?
Yeah.
Brother, that's powerful. I don't want to gloss that over, because so many people have this projection in their mind of what their dreams are. They've never lived that dream, so they don't really actually know what it is. But in their mind, they think they do, and they get there, and it's like, this really isn't what I thought it was going to be, but they stay.
That's
because
true, yeah.
This is what I work for, so I'm just going to stay. Brother, I'm proud of you that you didn't. When you realize it wasn't everything that you wanted, that's powerful.
I thank you very much. It's one of those things I always say on my tombstone, laughably, they're going to say he was ambitious. I just have always wanted to keep trying new things, keep, working hard and just following what seemed natural to me. But I've never been afraid to just jump. And you'll hear that as we go through. And like I said earlier, I really do believe God was giving me lessons, putting people in my life, hoping I would make better decisions along the way, which, we all don't at times. But I can see the plan. I could see what his talents and skill sets he gave to me, including levity, like I talked about earlier with humor. I mean, I use humor all day long. I'm like Danny Kaye, for those that know who he is, from White Christmas all the way down to Jim Carrey. I just love being a big jokester and having fun and making the hard stuff enjoyable when you're in the middle of it. And boy, that came out to be perfect when you own your own gym. And I got to choose the music and the tempo. And we had trainer shirtless Fridays where all the dudes would just wear board shorts and no shirts. And you can imagine that would be popular with the ladies in Newport Beach. So
I can imagine. Yeah.
we just had a blast. And I just turned it into an absolute fun. And we made training exciting. And it's amazing. I would say it's an interesting thing in any industry, but I call it my swimming pool analogy, because it doesn't matter what you come from. And so let's just take a personal trainer, for instance. You kind of come from two routes. Usually it's, I was a pro athlete or a really good athlete, and I don't know what I want to do, and I'm going to fall back to being a trainer because I was good at that. And so it's one of the paths that a lot of people get into, become a trainer. And you can see that if you look on Instagram. You can see that everywhere at your local gym. The other one is people who would go to get a kinesiology degree or come the academic route. They're going to come in like the big science heads and be able to go there. Well, I luckily had both coming into that pool. But let me tell you something, like any industry, when you get in that swimming pool, you're going to get into the shallow end first, because it's not what you know, it's the practical application of that. So it's developing wisdom over time in whatever trade you're in. You have to go through that grinder, and you have to be able to take people with what you think you know, put it to humans, learn what doesn't work and then what does work, and then keep that process going. And that's when you slowly move deeper into the swimming pool. I call it, the deep end. And so I always say, when someone's looking for a trainer, you don't know where that trainer's at in the pool. And then I would say, something that's interesting is, from my perspective, I can tell you the 5 or 6 different trainers in the country that are very similar to me, the way that we actually train, and just the storied 30-year career. But some of those trainers, when they get to the deep end, it's still not enough, and they're like an orca. They jump out into the open ocean. And that's when you come up with massive free thinkers. Gunnar Peterson would be one of those, the famous trainer. He's reinvented himself a bunch. He just moved from Beverly Hills of training, the Kardashians and Sly Stallone, all that stuff, because he was right there in Beverly Hills, and just moved to Tennessee. So now he's in Franklin, Tennessee. So interesting thing, like when he was up doing his stuff in LA and Beverly Hills, I was down in South Orange County in Newport Beach area doing my stuff. And so we both worked with actors and pro athletes, and we had a lot of massive impact. It's like, well, now what's that next step? What are you going to do with that information and that wisdom?
And what was the next step? What happened from that point?
Yeah, so it's interesting enough. I would say as a trainer, it's really challenging. It's an interesting day. You wake up early, and you're going to be at the gym. Especially if you own it, you're going to be at the gym in the 5 or 6 o'clock range, and you're going to run all day long until people get off work, and then you're still going. You might train on Saturdays, and it gets to be a grind. And the most important thing, which most people can, I think, attest to, it's energy out. And so if you're an entertainer, if you're somebody who's coaching, or let's say a nurse, right? So you're somebody who's just giving people your energy all day, you become an energy dealer. And so trainers are good. If you're good, you're going to be doing that same thing. You're empathetic. You're a great listener. You're an untrained psychologist. you never got all the lessons for it, but you're just like their hairdresser and their pool boy, except for you work with their body, right? So they're going to tell you all their stuff. You're going to get a close relationship with them, and they're going to dump all their stuff on you. So I've had what you would think industry-wise burnout a couple times.
Right.
And so I left the training industry for a while to go into home building with one of my dear friends and mentors and clients. He's like, you love architecture, you love building things. Why don't you just come with me? And so I literally took a total left turn, and then you're gonna laugh, because you're obviously your show's about what happens during adversity and how do you rise up out of it. I get into the home building world in Southern California, where they're doing the subprime loans. We're building the houses for them, so we're building huge subdivisions. We're a new home builder. Right when the fall happened. So I literally leave out of my industry, put in the grind of 3 to 4 years out in the field, learning how to run subs through a house and build stuff. And I loved it. I felt I was building neighborhoods. It was this really fun change in my life. And I thought, well, I could really be into this and be a home builder. And that was the plan. Then all of a sudden, boom, the whole mortgage industry blows up. And then there went that industry. So.
Brother, that was around 2007 and 8. I know.
Yep.
And here's the great news with that. And it doesn't sound like great news, Glenn. That sounds like crappy news. But when you're not afraid to jump, doesn't mean you're not going to get in a position where you fail. And it may not even be a mistake.
Yeah.
It might have been the right thing that you needed to go through that in order for something else down the street. Here's 100%. The thing, man. God's ways are not our ways, and his plans are not like our plans. And we are not even able to understand them, at least not in present day or future looking. Mm-hmm. Looking back, sometimes it makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
And I'm built a lot like you, Scott. If I've never been afraid to jump, if it made sense, if I felt like God was in it, I would test it out. Sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes I would just jump anyway. Well, that's when I screwed up a lot. It's when I just okay. Because the word does say to test the spirits and get some counsel. Sometimes I didn't do that and I messed up. But not being afraid to jump is a powerful, powerful personality trait. Because you will find success. Why? Because you don't quit. I mean, the only way you're guaranteed to fail is when you quit.
That's true. Yeah. You
Went to building. Subprime loans fell on their face. Everything took a stop. 2007, 2008. That's actually when I went into the life insurance industry because I was under the same kind of a condition as you were.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So what happened from there? Out of the building into what?
Yeah, it was interesting. So, and he was my dear friend that I worked for. I literally trained him and his family. So he was really a mentor for me, and he's still a very close friend of mine today. And we had a brand new baby on the way. So we already had one child, my son, and then we had a baby girl coming. And he gave me a severance, and I went home and discussed it with my wife and said, I have an opportunity. I think I'm going to take it, but it's interestingly enough, my wife is from Seattle, Washington. That's where she was born. And at the time, my parents had moved to go be up with my brother up in Seattle. And so they were up there for, I think, 6 or 7 years by that time. And we were taking vacations to go up there all the time because we had a little baby boy. And of course, you want to be up with the grandparents. So I said, hey, I don't want to go to Seattle. It's not sunny. It's not where I grew up. All my connections are down here, but family is super important to me. And I'd love for my children to be around their grandparents. And so we packed everything up in California and moved up to Seattle. And so that was another big leap for me. And I did it because I loved my family. It was a brand new start over.
Sure.
I was second guessing a lot of things. I'm like, I love training, but I wasn't sure if I should go back into it. That big stop interruption, and I had all the momentum before. And so I went to go work for a tech company up in Seattle, and I was selling tech software. And one of the funny things, that mentor who had the home building company, he said, Scott, you can sell ice to Eskimos. So he said, doesn't matter what industry you're in, buddy, I'm not going to worry about you. He's still a dear friend to this day, but he's not wrong. I mean, I have that ability to be able to connect with people, and if it's something I believe in, I could definitely.
Scott, the deeper we dig into your life, the more I realize you and I have a lot more in common than I thought we did.
Oh, cool.
Very, very similar. Not similar in careers, but similar in actions. Just not afraid to jump.
Yeah,
I've done a lot of things with my life. It sounds like you've done a lot of things with your life.
Yeah, it's a very interesting run, right? I glossed right over a couple of them just because we got to get to the most important part of my story.
So let's do that. You went to Seattle, tech company, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Things were pretty good for a while, and there's always and then.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
I'll step back to when I was, we were a family who would call ourselves Christian. Like you, my dad was in the Army. He was 82nd Airborne. Both my brothers went to the Air Force. We were always military based. We went to church on Christmas and Easter, and that was about it. We didn't open the Bible or read the Bible, but I always knew there was God, and I never even for a second questioned it. And then in my life in Newport Beach, my wife introduced me to some really impactful people. One of those I'm about ready to start a podcast with called Game Day Theology, Scott Wilson. A dear friend of mine, and the pastor who actually baptized me in his backyard pool. When I was at my gym, Corona Del Mar Fitness in Newport Beach, I actually trained Greg Laurie, the famous pastor. I've had a ton of people around my life, and so I always believed in God. And then when I was there, I got in to an amazing Bible study in Newport Beach with just a few handful of people. One of those is now the CEO of Chick-fil-A, Andrew Cathy, and the CEO of LA Golf, Reed Dickens. And so they kind of shaped, those guys all came, matter of fact, Reed's father was a pastor from Louisiana. They brought me in, showed me John MacArthur and all the famous, R.C. Sproul's and all the famous guys as we were looking at famous pastors and just going through Bible study. So I really fell in love with the scriptures and with the word, and I dove into it. And those long drives when I was working in construction, I was just listening to John MacArthur sermons. So I have a little bit of different, path to find that through. But here's the difference. And this is when we can get to 2018, 2019. I still never made, Jesus the Lord of my life. He was my savior, but my pride was always running the show.
Ooh, here we go, baby. Here we go.
One of those things you just don't know. I wasn't running around trying to be prideful, but I always thought I was in control. It was always one of those things. And so I wasn't useful yet. And so we can get into that moment now because my whole life has completely changed.
I'm going to probably disagree with you just on that statement. And here's why.
Yeah.
Because God can use you right where you are, no matter what.
Absolutely.
So I ran around for many, many years. I think I told you this story the other day. I had a Southern Gospel Quartet from 1992 until 2003, was living in the Southern Baptist world, very legalistic, very strict, doing the very best I could with the knowledge that he had given me up to this point. Mm-hmm. And he used me, promising you he used me. I promise you he used you. But it wasn't ultimate, it wasn't the ultimate place yet. It wasn't where he was taking you. So I'm going to slap your hand.
So no, that's great.
He was using you.
Yeah. And there's plenty of actual real stories along the way of that. One is our fellow friend, Steve Abramowitz, who's in Franklin, Tennessee, and has Heartland Journal. Mm-hmm. He says that I helped him get saved during 2020, and I was training him at the gym that I had in Seattle. So to your point, I never stopped talking about God, or up there it was hilarious because I was known as the Christian conservative because it was so rare.
Right.
I was running a gym with 5,000 people in it, and it was Second Amendment conversations. It was nonstop conversations, especially when President Obama was there, and that's all it was. I was the one person, like a punching bag. They come in and, but they didn't realize that I'm a junkie for politics and for faith, and they came into a gunfight unarmed. So I was happy to have any debate anytime about any subject they wanted, and I think I was just the only truth teller they heard. The only reason they didn't reject me instantly up there, because you can imagine where I was. I literally was at Magnuson Athletic Club, where the BLM riots started out of our parking lot.
Man, so I don't know if you can hear that. I just had some landscapers start up right outside my door, so it might get a little bit noisy. Yeah. But you're telling the story. You're telling my story just with different words.
Yeah.
So you were living the life. You were following Christ, but you really weren't. He was your Savior, but he wasn't really your Lord. You haven't really found your faith. Here's something I think, again, is very important to say. Faith is not found in the easy.
Yeah.
Guarantee you, 99% of the folks that are sitting in church every Sunday that hear a sermon about faith being the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, and then some that are hearing, well, if you're born again and you have faith, you can have everything you want. We're being taught a bastardized version of what faith really is. Yep. Faith is, here's what the word says. Without faith, we can't please God. I said that earlier. Until you really find out what faith is, it's something that's outside of yourself, and it takes adversity. And that's what happened to you. There was some things that came up that caused your pride to be challenged. Talk about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it couldn't have been any more dramatic story. In 2018, my brain's always going. I'm always consuming information like crazy. If anyone knows me, I've read pretty much every major nutrition book you can see that have come across the years. Imagine being a Newport Beach gym owner, and at the time, anything from South Beach diet to Atkins diet, you name it, someone's coming in. Here's the new book I'm reading. So it's like fad diet of the month. And so I picked up all those books and just consumed them as much as I could. And I found a common denominator. It's just really a caloric deficit with some legalistic stuff in there. So I call them all cults because it's like cult leaders. And I do the same thing today with keto, with intermittent fasting. They're all cults because they point to every other diet as doing it wrong. And that's the absolute definition. You've got dogmatic religion. So it's almost like the Catholic religion. It's got all this dogma. It's got a leader at the top that tells you these are the rules. And then nobody else is right, only us. And so you have to do this. If you don't do it, you're out of the club. and that's every modern day thing. So fast forward, when I was in Seattle, I just always wanted a little bit more. And people would always come to me after a big weekend and be like, Scott, I blew it. Now you got to train me really hard this week because I had a big weekend or whatever it might be. I went to a wedding or I drank too much or whatever it might be. And I was just so tired of hearing that bad relationship with food that I created Fast.Eat.Live. And I created it by, standing on the shoulders of other people. There's 3 or 4 books that I love in the nutrition world. And some of these guys are mentors that don't know me yet. But I really created a system that is, again, the practical application of some of the things that they talked about. So it started with the Silicon Valley guys started doing these 72-hour fasts. And a lot of people had written about it. And so I was really curious, like, why in the world would anyone want to fast? Here I was, a college football player. I didn't miss a snack, much less a meal. It was always like, how much can I put in to keep that weight on as a tight end?
Yeah.
So I just overate every meal. And so I was like, well, why are people fasting? And I didn't understand the religious implications because I didn't know history. I didn't know about the world religions, and I didn't know all that. So I created Fast.Eat.Live, and it became so effective. And all of my clients that tried it there, I've never changed it since. It's the same exact system. They became so effective that a lot of my celebrity clients started calling me and reaching out to me. One of those wanted to become Insta famous again and reboot her life, and had a new brand that she was coming out with, and that just catapulted us onto NBC and Extra TV as they followed her weight loss journey. So it was one of those things to where all of a sudden I was like, whoa. So I dumped savings in, developed websites, started putting everything together, and all of a sudden here comes that pride again, right? I'm like, look at me now. I'm flying all over the place, and I've got my celebrity clients back, and things are going really good. I'm on TV, and that was right at the top, and then it's like a roller coaster, and then 2020 happens.
Yeah.
And it was like you couldn't get more night and day. It's like a movie.
So let's talk about that, because 2020 was kind of rough for a lot of people. 2020 put a little bit of a pause to what God had in mind for me, but He used that actually to expand my territory tremendously.
Yeah.
That was my personal experience. What about you? 2020 kicked you in the tail?
Oh boy. So we were up there. Governor Inslee was no different than Gavin Newsom down in California. They decided that they were going to put a war on anything that made common sense. So here they are running Dr. Fauci out. They're telling us that we're supposed to mask each other. We're handing me a cloth mask that I can breathe through. How's that working? So it didn't defied logic. And I'm a very logical person. I'm a very science-based person. Hence why I write for Heartland Journal. So Steve's like, hey, write about masks, having more bacteria and how it doesn't stop the virus. So I'm writing about that. Well, I was following the news. Obviously, I'm a conservative, so I feel like the country took a massive turn. A lot of the big things growing up, the conspiracies that we hear, it was just one conspiracy coming true after another, and it rocked my world. At the same time, this country that I love, like I told you, I come from a military family. I grew up in Orange County, California, which is like the dark red section of California, a little dot. And I just thought everyone thought like us. I thought everybody would fly an American flag out in their house or put it on their truck. And here I'm hearing people in Seattle telling me that, oh, that's a trigger message when you put a flag on. That's really.
Is that not maniacal?
I just like, this is, so I was up against it every single day from every single person I was there. The Governor Inslee shut down gyms. That was the very first thing he did. I was in the largest gym in Seattle. So I ran the fitness end of the largest gym in Seattle. So they took away my income. I couldn't file for unemployment because I had a side business. And the second I call them up and they're like, yeah, you've got Fast.Eat.Live. How much money did you make in 2019? Well, I made the most I ever made in 2019. And for Fast.Eat.Live anyway. And so I didn't qualify for unemployment. Everybody else got that. And then they wouldn't let me train people. And imagine all my clients up there were afraid to see me. They're all people, like to this day, when I moved down here a year ago, there's still people wearing masks in the gym there.
Brother, I coined a term during that time, and I've never heard anybody else use it. And I call it the biggest test of obedience the world has ever seen. That was the COVID debacle, the biggest test of obedience the world has ever seen. And I truthfully think it was. I think they were pushing the world to see just how ridiculous they could make the rules and people would obey.
100%, like the 6-foot rule, which is the most ludicrous thing in the world.
Oh, it's even been, they've admitted they made that up.
100%. Something that nobody's talked about. I have a couple of things that really bother me that no one talks about. I could go off on tangents forever. Hence why I'm having my own podcast. But one of those things is the actual spray that they allowed us. Once they opened our gym back up and we had to set it up into quadrants, you can only have this many people in the gym. At this
Every other,
It was so absurd. like and by the way, we were in an airplane hangar. It was an old military airplane hangar at a naval base up there. It was Sandpoint Naval Air Base is where this Magnuson Athletic Club was. So it's 5 stories of pure air above you. We weren't in a little room. It's 5 stories of magnificent air. Arena Sports has 4 soccer fields inside the building, inside this airplane hangar. I mean, it's the biggest. You're in the biggest. You might as well be in the open air. So it was so exhausting. But here was the part that no one talks about. We talk about what hand sanitizer does, right? It kills all the bacteria. Well, our body's designed to have bacteria. Our gut bacteria is what Fast.Eat.Live is built on. So it's one of those things. If I'm going to put antibacterial stuff all over me, I'm killing all the good bugs.
Sure.
And so what is the thing that they said? The CDC came out and said that you can open up your gyms if you use this one product and spray it. Right on the actual label of the bottle, it says, do not use as an aerosol spray. The very first thing it says right at the top. Mm-hmm. Harmful to humans. And I'm like, this is what they're telling us? And it was so ridiculous. People bought like these, look like Star Wars guns, and they're misting all of our equipment. Let me tell you, the rowing machines, the rubber that's on the handle of the rowing machines started to deteriorate. It became sticky and gooey from whatever that stuff was they were spraying
with that stuff. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, whatever that was. So not only,
the box of masks themselves say does not work for a virus. I mean, it says it right there. So
I mean, the hardest part for people like you and me is, I don't claim to be an expert, but I can definitely spot one that's not. I can definitely say that, listen, buddy, it's a challenge from everything they said. And we didn't have any control, and they really laid on control. Like you said, it was a thought experiment. And so two different ways that it just really, really had a massive negative impact on me. People like Dennis Prager, who I love, from PragerU. I'm not sure if you know who he is. Right out of the gates, he's like, my Americans won't fall for this. They're not going to let their civil liberties be infringed upon. Well, he was wrong, and we all were wrong, and just shocked, right? And then John MacArthur at Grace Community Church there in California, he defied and went head to head against Gavin Newsom, and Gavin Newsom took away his parking lot lease just to try and get after him. But anyway, he ended up winning a lawsuit later on, and they never shut down. Grace Community Church never shut down. Praise God. And then you see Charlie Kirk today with TPUSA Faith. And that's his litmus test. Which one of you pastors actually shut your doors?
Brother, that is right there, the rabbit hole we should chase for about an hour.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely shown how weak and let me just say weak again, how weak the local New Testament church has become over the last many decades when they took on the 501c3 business model and no longer preaching the dadgum gospel like it's meant to be preached. And it showed 99, probably more than that, % of the churches shut down.
Yep.
They just obeyed. They shut down. Not only did they shut down, some of them were actually ratting on their own people if they didn't follow the rules.
They had those hotlines that you could call and rat on your neighbor. One thing that you should have Scott Wilson on, the gentleman I was telling you about. We're going to start our own podcast together. So I'm going to have the Scott Jansen Show, but the one that I was going to tag it on, and I'm like, Scott Wilson is too big for this. He's an amazing pastor. He is right up your alley and everything you've been saying on this show. You should have him on because he could talk for hours about this. This is exactly what he wants our entire podcast to be, the weakening of the U.S. churches and the weakening of the message. And he is amazing.
Seeing the music video that I put out and the song that I wrote in 2020.
Yeah.
Through this whole mess, actually 2020, 21, No New Normal. And it's got that through the whole song. Yeah. I woke up this morning and looked out the door to a country I don't recognize. They put masks on our face to hide our pain, and there's no fire in most people's eyes. And it's still true today, man. Everything I do for the last 5 years is based on a fight, and that was a battle that's still going on. I still see it in South Florida, people driving around in their own car with a mask on.
I think we're in a brief, I'm not a pessimist. I've always been an optimist in life. I think that's why I can jump and just go to things. I always trust the Lord. And I just believe that, there's way more good people out there than we know. There's a lot of people who need to hear voice. They need leadership. And that's why I'm excited about what's happened post-COVID of some of our leaders, whether it's ex-military guys that are in certain spaces, your podcast, guys in the church that are actually trying to redefine what the church is. So I'm excited to be part of that leadership of what our country needs. We have an amazing country. It's a once in a lifetime experiment in the history of this world.
Yeah.
And we become so comfortable here, people don't know it. They don't teach it in school, and our kids don't know it.
You're absolutely right. And I keep interrupting your story, and I apologize. You're just saying stuff that's getting me fired up.
I'm good. But we can come back on anytime. I got lots of stuff we could talk about.
So COVID shut you down, took away your income, wouldn't let you have any unemployment, just kicked you right square in the butt.
Yep. I've been an athlete my whole life. I out of the box, I'm 6'4", 210. When I played football in Wyoming, I got up to 250. You know, I've always been a machine, but it's not something I had to work at. It was something I was blessed with. I always felt like Superman, like I was some sort of superhero when it came to an athlete. And I mean, I could jump and do the splits. I can dunk basketballs, and I didn't work to get those things. That's God-given ability. So all of a sudden, something that was so radical to me was in 2020, all that stuff was happening. And I took that stress on. I was like, okay, well, I don't have any income coming in, and I've got 3 kids at home, shoved in our house in rainy Seattle. They can't even see their neighbor friends because everyone's too afraid to let kids see each other. It's the most ludicrous thing on earth. Nobody wanted my Fast.Eat.Live system because you either were jumping on your Peloton, with like a lot of my dear friends up there, and getting super fit that way and organizing your house, and you were in a different boat than a lot of people were during that storm. Or you went right to drinking, and you were stuck next to your refrigerator in your pantry. A lot of my clients were like, that they didn't want to hear from Coach Scott at all. They were hiding in their pantry trying to eat their way emotionally through the uncertainty and all the stuff that was scary for them. So nobody wanted Fast.Eat.Live. Nobody would train with me. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this because, I'm going to turn into Mad Max with military background and everything. I literally, I had a couple of vehicles, but one of them was my old F-250. I threw all my training gear in the F-250, and I would just like a traveling circus. I would go back to like the beginning of my career. I would go to anybody who would train with me. And we're talking, I have heaters out underneath a little covering, and it's like 40 degrees in Seattle, and I'm training people doing small groups, just trying to earn a buck to put food on my table. And my stress was going. And cortisol. So, I mean, here I deal with hormones all day long. My cortisol was redlining. And what would be the worst thing you could do during that time? I started drinking more. Oh, that's a great idea, right? Hey, why don't you start drinking more and just completely ruin
there were some subtle things going on during that time too, and don't think that even subtlety can't help brainwashes. When the bars were considered, what do they call it? Essential. Yeah, that was an essential business.
And up in Seattle, I mean, I could paint a real story for people. And my wife and I have been telling people here in Texas, and no one believes us because, here in Texas, it was like they still hung out together. They didn't say, oh, I'm not going to play with my friends. It's all about the same common values, and communities, one of the most important values here. Up there in Seattle, if you didn't have a vaccine card, you were the ones killing grandma. It was like this huge brainwashing. And like I said, and so we lost dear friends on social media, and really had them chastise us, because I wasn't about to take an experimental vaccine. Not a chance was I about ready to do that. I love science, and I know way more about science than the people chastising me. So, I mean, we just had it from every way you can imagine. But let me paint a picture. Outside of that gym, it's in a public park. So everyone knows CHOP or Chaz that they had during that time. And the mayor let them take over that area. That was right next to where my gym was. Yeah. And so, I mean, it's, that was up on the Capitol Hill downtown area, but I was right next to University of Washington, if anyone is familiar with that area there. But all of a sudden, all the weed stores were essential. So all the weed stores were open. And in Seattle, just like you've seen happen in Colorado, that entire city changed once they legalized marijuana. It is a weed store on every corner. Then all of a sudden, these massage parlor things came in, and I'm like, what is going on? Graffiti everywhere. Well, COVID happens, and then people are in motorhomes. They're camping in the park. I'd have to come through an old military base and drive past people doing legalized prostitution out there. I mean, not legalized, but allowed, right? They'd have pup tents, and they're cooking meth and doing fentanyl on my way to work every day. So I'm having to drive past that every day. And so it started to really, really beat me down in my psychology and my stress being that high. Here's the low point. I just got done training a client. It's a Saturday morning. I'm trying to get my house to get finalized and repaired so we can sell it to get out of Seattle. I'd already moved my parents in 2022. I moved them back to Huntington Beach. And got them out of there. And they got back to beautiful sunny California where they can walk on the beach every day. It's amazing. Their health has gone up like crazy. But I already moved. So it started that process. I already moved them out. I was trying to get my house ready to sell so we could get out. We were going to go to anywhere we could get out. It was a free state. I'm in a hardware store, and I got told you, I was like Superman. I'd always had my strength and my athleticism. All of a sudden, piercing headache. I was starting to get dizzy, and I'm like, I think I'm going to pass out. I've never passed out in my life. And so I literally, if anyone knows me, I literally I was in the hardware store. I opened up the little freezer section and grabbed a Gatorade, which I do not drink because it's pure poison. And I grabbed a Snickers bar, which is about the same. I wolfed them both down and I paid for them and told the guy at the front, I said, I'm going to go sit down on like an aisle 4 where the hammers are and call my wife because I think I'm going to pass out. So I grabbed those just for blood sugar because I didn't know what was happening. And I didn't all the way lose consciousness, but I was close. My wife had to come pick me up. She drove my truck home. And the rest of that day I was on the couch and felt terrible. I thought I was having like a brain tumor or something. I didn't know what was wrong with me. Well, fast forward the next week, I got in to get blood work done. They did an emergency blood panel. I went to a naturopath. And she came back and she's like, is it okay if the owner sits in? And I was like, well, sure. And she sits me down. It's this naturopath who I just met and the owner of the facility. And they're going through my blood panel and the entire thing is highlighted yellow. And they're going through, they're like, well, your testosterone, you lift weights and you're, a male and an athlete, it should be up high in the, 700-800s and it's a 56. And we've never seen anything like this in our life. Yeah. And you're not absorbing any minerals. And you tested positive for every single thing. Of course, now in hindsight, I had leaky gut. So I was stressed out of my mind. I added alcohol and I just had a permeable gut. So everything was testing positive as me being allergic to it. I broke out in a full body shingles, which ended up turning into eczema. So huge sores, eczema all over my body. I physically was going through my Job moment. It was one of those things. And meanwhile, I didn't have any money coming in except for what I could hustle for. So I physically was dying. And the lady's like, we're not going to let you leave today's appointment without scheduling a cardiology appointment. And then they wheeled in an EKG machine and they couldn't figure out how to put the paper in and turn it on. Meanwhile, at Cal State Fullerton, I ran the exercise physiology lab. I'm like, I can help you with that. I'm like, why are you bringing out an EKG machine? They're like, well, we're afraid you're going to have a heart attack because you're not having any mineral absorption. And here I'm eating perfect on Fast.Eat.Live. I'm fasting. I should be the epitome of health, but it just shows you what stress can do.
Boy, that is a key right there, my friend. Stress is a killer.
Yep.
Stress is a killer. That's where faith comes in.
It's a funny thing. I laugh about myself now, like the village idiot sometimes that I am. Every time I get on a plane and they say, we're going to put your mask on first and then put it on your children and whatever. I always have mocked that lady in my head. I'm like, you got to be kidding. I'm going to hold my breath. I'm going to put it on the whole plane first before I put it on myself.
Right.
Just a prideful Scott Jansen, right?
So God used that though.
Oh boy. Yeah. There was a lot of quiet moments of me on my front porch with a freezing cold, and I got a fire lit, and I was sitting there trying to pray to God to help me. So,
you know what, Scott? We right now are at 59 minutes and 15 seconds. Mm-hmm. I'm making an executive decision. We're going to continue, folks. If you're watching this is normally an hour show, but when it gets good, it gets good. And I got flexibility because I'm finished this fight, baby. I'm Glenn Baker. So we are going to continue this thing right now, Scott. Talk to me about what God did through that breaking down of the health guru, the guy that should be in the best shape of anybody that he knows. And now you're not.
Yeah, it was a humbling experience. Doesn't even qualify it because I was so afraid.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that you mentioned. Anywhere in the Bible, when we go through, he's always choosing the youngest child. He's always choosing the lowly, the misfits. And so, although he had given me all the skill sets of where I'm at now and what the course is and plan for my life is, he needed me to need him. And so you said it early on that when times are good, why would you need God?
Mm-hmm.
When you got money, when you've got success, when everything's going well for you, you're in the hot seat. You think everything's great and you're in control.
Scott, we live in that zone here in the United States of America because we're taught to live in that zone here in the United States of America. We're taught to be the comfort is blessing. That if we're followers, if we're Christians, that life's going to be easy. Yeah. Life's going to be good. All you got to do is get into your faith, into your word, and get in faith. It's not true, man. It's not true. It's never been true that it's going to be easy. In fact, I think one of the most dangerous phrases somebody invented, I don't know who it was, but somebody invented at one point that God will not give you more than you can handle. That's the worst, yeah. It's absolutely false. That's a lie of the devil. Yeah. If you belong to him, he will let you have. He may give it to you. He may allow it to happen to you. Yeah. But there's going to be tests in your life that are way beyond anything that you can handle. And there's going to be a mission when you get through that test that is way bigger than you can even think or imagine. Because if we didn't need God, why would I worship him? If I could understand him, why would I need him?
100%. It's you look at Saul and David. Saul was doing real good until he wasn't, until he became prideful, wasn't obedient, and then God gave him over. Right? It's you read through those things, and it's a hard thing to think about. Like, why would God give him over? Because he has to be obedient. That's the one thing that he wants you to repent. Yeah. Christianity at its foundation, like you said earlier, we're being told a lie in church. It's the prosperity gospel. You got Joel Osteen out there telling you, you want my watch, you just have to give more money. I'm going to make your life prosperous. It's an absolute lie. And so not only that, but they water it down. They take Jesus out of the gospel. And then you look and see up in Seattle, just the wickedness of what they're teaching up there. I would even go a step further and talk about the New Living Translation. You put the NASB right next to the New Living Translation and look at the two verses. I mean, they're basically just watering down, taking out Jesus right out of it. And so you don't even know you need a savior if you're not sick. So he is the he is the message. He is the savior. He is, the rescue operation, as I've heard it, for our soul. So he's the one to come down and die for our sins. And so people don't even recognize it. They don't want to have repentance, and they certainly don't want to be obedient.
Well, it goes back to that getting out of the comfort zone. When we're comfortable, we don't want to get out of our comfort zone. If we're in a place of security, we don't want to get out of that security because we're comfortable. Comfort, I think, is maybe one of the biggest lies of the devil.
Yep.
It feels, we can go into fields. It feels nice, but it's killing us. Man, I can lay on the couch all day. It's just comfortable, but I ain't doing anything. I'm not doing anything for the kingdom. I'm not doing anything for me. And one of the things that God showed me a while back, and that's when I was actually going through the jail scenario. And I told you that story the other day. And if y'all have been watching this for any amount of time, you've heard bits and pieces about it. So in 2017, 73 days in 2 different jail cells. And God would whisper to me, said, Glenn, don't use your eyes. Don't use your sense of smell. Not your nose, not your taste, not your touch, not what you hear. I've given you those things to navigate this world, but that's not where the reality is. The reality is in the spirit. It's in the spiritual. Listen to what I'm saying to your heart and follow me. And I'll take what's meant to harm you and turn it into something great. And Scott, he's done that in a public eye for me. Everything that was taken from me has been restored many times over. He's put me in positions where I'm now going all over the country. I'm speaking to people all over the country. My music has gone all over the world, and now we've got a foundation where we're helping veterans. It's going to be all over the United States. And it's simply not because of what Glenn Baker is capable of doing, because this is way outside of my comfort zone. And Scott, I'm going to say probably what God's called you to do, you feel the same way. It's
Absolutely.
way bigger than Scott Jansen.
Absolutely. Yep.
And
otherwise, you'd still be in the insurance business, right?
Still there, or not, man. I might be homeless.
Yeah.
Through that whole jail experience, I might be dead.
Oh, yeah.
There was a year I didn't care whether I lived or died afterwards.
You mentioned faith, and faith is something you can't see. Faith is when you, and really, I think you have, God calls to you in those moments. So if you are going through a hard time, if you are feeling out of control, and you're not saved, I mean, that is your opportunity to reach out. And so he needs you to be at the point of your life where you need him. And then you need to repent for your sin. And then he's coming in like we talked about, like a Navy SEAL. He's coming in to save the day and repurpose you. But you are a new person. But you're like what the Bible says, a new man after that. Mm-hmm. What we know of this world, like those things, I'm not looking for material wealth. I'm not looking for comfort. Let's go back to my expertise for a bit. Spent 30 years as a strength conditioning coach, a trainer. I started Fast.Eat.Live. There's something called homeostasis. And if I had two sides to the coin, one side of the coin is homeostasis. The other side of the coin is hormesis. So homeostasis is our body's autonomic system. And when you get the flu and you lose 10 pounds, you don't have to go overeat the next week to get that weight back. Your body automatically does it for you. So it's part of your autonomic system. That's when someone says, hey, I want to lose weight. How many calories should I eat in a day? And they look, and your basal metabolic rate will give you a certain number of calories that you burn, usually in a 24-hour period. That's homeostasis. Your body's designed to keep the status quo. So basically, it's the don't die in nature. Well, anything that is effective, especially in my toolbox as a trainer, anything that's hormetic, which is the opposite, remember, anything that's hormetic is going to be resistance training. Resistance training is hard. You don't wake up and be like, oh, that felt really good. No, you had to push heavy weight. It was challenging. You probably broke a sweat. And the next couple of days, you're sorer than heck because your body has to repair those tissues. That was a hormetic experience. It pushed you. So anything that's hormetic is massively beneficial. Now, if you do too much of it, it can kill you. But what do we do, as health and wellness people, especially as trainers? Why would I want to do a cold water immersion? Why would I want to do a sauna? Why are those things equally as productive as cardiovascular exercise? Why do I do different types of cardiovascular exercise? Because they're hormetic. So Fast.Eat.Live has a hormetic loop built into the week, Monday through Sunday. It has a hormetic loop built into it where it pushes your body, makes you mentally stronger. It physically lets you be at dietary rest, heals your gut, and it kicks you out of this status quo comfort.
That's a lot of words, man.
Hormesis is the number one thing. I'll give you a little funny side note. A berry in the wild has to endure nature. Things are trying to eat it. It's out there with different temperatures and stuff. That same type of berry, let's just say raspberry, blueberry, right? That same type of berry, if it's grown in these big farms that we see that are commercial farms, has less nutrients. It's not nutrient dense as the one that went through adversity.
All right.
So hormesis is really it's your finish this fight, man. If you don't go through things that are tough like hormesis, you're not going to get better at anything, whether it's your body, your health, spirituality.
Well, where did God pull your butt up out of that hole, my friend? Where did God pull you up out of that hole?
He enabled me to get healthy. So I finally put trust in him that I'm not in control anymore. And he gave me that reassurance of, every single day, if I'm going to be a light for him and focus on that and trust that he has a plan for me. And I got to the point where it was true faith and true trust, because if I died, I knew that it was going to serve him somehow. I knew that he had a plan for that, but I was just praying that let me still be a father. Let me still be a husband. Let me be an impact for you. Let me use my talent and gifts that you've given me. Don't let me die here. Don't let me die in Seattle, for God's sake. You use me. Use me somewhere.
Go back to Huntington Beach first.
I got a very funny little side note. When I left, people are going to think I'm crazy. I dug up my Weimaraner, my buried dog. I dug him up and took him with me.
No, really?
I didn't leave my buddy up there. I wasn't going to sell my house and leave him in the yard. I literally drove him in my F-250 to California and buried him right next to my other dog back. I've always had Weimaraners, Magnum PI, Higgins, and now Duke.
Yeah.
I didn't leave my man behind when I was up there. You can see the military part of me, right?
That's powerful. Well, man, you hit on some pretty cool stuff today, and that right there, what you just said, I believe, is when we know that we found peace. Mm-hmm. Jesus, the word says it. Jesus said, "I am peace," and we call him the Prince of Peace. And so, when you know that even if he lets me die, I'm going to be fine. It's part of his plan. I'll even go back to the Old Testament. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego they were trying to force, the king was trying to force, actually those in power, the elites that manipulated the king to even make the law where they had to bow down before this statue they made of him. Yep. It was all a manipulation. The same thing's happening today.
Yep.
But and then they wouldn't bow. And then the guys were saying, "King, see this? They're not bowing. You got to kill them." Yep. And he told them, he said, "Listen, just bow to me, and you won't have to die." And they told him, "We serve God. We will not bow before you, and he will save us. But even if he doesn't save us, we still will not bow." That's when you found your path, baby.
Yep. That was a powerful moment for sure.
That sounds to me like you found that path.
Yep. And that's when I said he became my Lord and Savior. And so now he is the Lord of my life, my entire structure of everything I do. Fast.Eat.Live is completely geared towards that. I took the shackles off because when I was taking people through my program, I always wanted to say, well, God designed your body like this. We were designed to fast. Look at all the biblical points of fasting. Look at historically, I could never do that. I was always stuck in this secular world of don't mention God in here, even though he's the designer of our perfect bodies.
Right.
One of the biggest things. And so to tie this up in a bow for you, not only did I turn over Fast.Eat.Live to him, but unbeknownst to me, because I used to train people with Paramount Studios to get actors ready, because I used to train models and athletes there in Corona del Mar, Newport Beach, I would take them through a protocol. That protocol is what I'm doing now with Action Hero. So Action Hero, I always say that the Christianity is not a noun; it's a verb. You look at Ephesians 6:10. It's our marching order, right? It's our armor. We're designed to go out and spread the gospel. It's forward action based. Everything we're doing, the way Jesus did with the disciples. He's like, "Come on." It was a forward motion. It was not, "Hey, we're going to sit here and bask in our knowledge like I'm Socrates and Aristotle," or like you mentioned earlier, I'm going to sit and watch football and sit on my couch where I'm comfortable. It's forward motion. So I got here to DFW. I didn't even plan this, but all these big groups of guys, whatever industries they're in, they have all these mastermind groups. I've now been plugged into these things, and I've been doing public speaking. It's all about Action Hero. So I'm taking the entire process that I have, bolting in for men so that we can help Christian men go back. One of the things early on in just my Christian walk was I read, what's it called? Wild at Heart, the old book by Eldridge. And this is a much better modern day version, built in with science, built in for action steps to take men like you and me and design our day. So I have a 25 chapter ebook that comes out. I put them through a 90-day program, and it literally is, what's your sleep like? What's your nutrition like? And of course, I've got Fast.Eat.Live built in there. Are you doing resistance training? What are you doing for community? Like each one of these things interact together. That's how God designed us. Fast.Eat.Live's built on community. We have our logo where these are our live days. That's Thursday through Sunday. You're designed to be with your community. All the thing, if you look at the 3 longevity measuring marks, how big are my quads and how strong are they? What's my community like? And what's my lung capacity like? So those three things are what will give you longevity. Those are completely measurable. If anyone is a science buff on here and watches Peter Attia and those guys, it's what they hit on. So here in DFW, I now have 2 books coming off the assembly line. It probably won't make this year, but it'll make the first quarter next year. Fast.Eat.Live and Action Hero.
Okay. Well, we're going to take one more step, Scott, before we finish up. And I didn't plan this, but you were talking about some stuff a while ago when you were sick, when you felt like you were going to pass out, and you had the testing done, and your testosterone was really low.
Yeah.
And you said, what else? I took notes here. You showed that you were allergic to everything.
Absolutely, yeah. So a lot of people will go get their tests done. They're like, "Oh, you're allergic to dairy. You're allergic to this. You're allergic to all these proteins. Here's all the foods," and they'll come up with like your food sensitivity, they call it. And what happens is that your gut only has a single cell, so it's only one cell. That's how small that gut lining is, and it's supposed to be impermeable. It's not. It can let water through, but it's not supposed to let those amino acids go through that come through foods. So what happens when you get leaky gut is the term. What happens is when your stress level gets so high, that becomes porous. That single cell becomes porous. There's a bunch of holes in it, and any food that you eat will trickle into your system. We're supposed to be from our mouth to our anus, just one big line straight out, and then inside of our intestines, small and large, it absorbs the nutrients. And then ultimately we take those nutrients. But if you start letting those things leak into your body, that's when your body starts reacting. So you see that in people's skin. So they call it your skin axis or your gut-brain axis. Both of those things, you can look at people instantly, and I can see if someone, I coined this term, I just think it's funny, it's sugar puff. When someone has a bunch of inflammation, you can just see it. They're just carrying extra weight with them. They're usually more red. That's just inflammation in their body. Inflammation is the number one common denominator for all modern day diseases. Rheumatoid arthritis, type 2 diabetes, and now we call it type 3 diabetes, which is all the brain stuff. Dementia, Parkinson's, all those things all have inflammation at the root of them. So that gut-brain axis is so critical.
Well, we're going to get very transparent here because this is Finish This Fight podcast.
Yeah.
It's not just Finish This Fight podcast. It's Finish This Fight song. It's the movie. It's the foundation. It's everything that God has put in my heart right now is to finish this fight. And when you said those words, it's triggered me a little bit. I'm going to tell you why. My testosterone, I know, is low. I told you the other night I fought with it for many, many years. Used to do TRT and that kind of thing. But when you said allergic to everything, it's time to get real transparent, guys. I can't finish this fight if I'm not healthy. And I've been an athlete. I've been an athlete my whole life. I mean, here, let me show you guys kind of what old Glenn Baker was at some time.
Right, wrestler.
This is high school and college wrestling. This was collegiate level athleticism. I lived in the gym at this weight right here. When I was off season, that's about 126 pounds wrestling. My off season was 143. I was bench pressing 315 pounds.
That's amazing. I was a weight ratio. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I could do an inverted leg press with 1,000+ pounds of weights on it. I mean, I was strong. So I've been feeling like I was unbeatable my whole life, kind of like Superman. When I came back from Desert Storm, after all the injections, and here's something a lot of people don't know. They made us take for 2 weeks small doses of nerve agent every 4 hours.
Oh my God.
I'm waking you up to make you take it for 2 weeks before we were shipped overseas.
Yeah.
My allergies are terrible, and I didn't know it for many years. Well, I did know it when I came back. Immediately when I came back, I started getting this drainage. It was just crazy. And then God called me into music, and it was like my body was fighting with what God called me to do. But I didn't follow through with it. I didn't check on it. So let's fast forward to 2011. I went for my first real checkup with the VA, and they put me through every test you could think of. I've got fatty liver disease. They did a biopsy on my liver to make sure it wasn't cancer. They took me through the allergy clinics, and the allergist actually looked at me, Scott, and said, "How are you still alive?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, 50% of the testing we did, you popped 100%, And the other 50%, there was nothing that you didn't pop close to 50% at the minimum.
Yeah.
You're allergic to everything. I don't know. You just live. So that piqued my curiosity when you said those things. Energy level, truthfully, I get a lot done, but it's right here. It's not because I've got a lot of energy to do it.
Yeah.
And so I end up being lethargic a lot. I'm not in the gym like I should be. So I'm being real transparent here. That was old Glenn Baker right there in his athletic days. This is Glenn Baker right now. At 5'4" and 212, 215, 218 pounds.
Yep.
And it's been up and down for the last 15 years, Scott. So you and I just met each other, but I'm going to talk with you offline, and I'm going to be bringing you on somewhat regularly. We're going to create, I want you to analyze me, because you also said something again just a moment ago, and it's not by accident, about inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
My cornea specialist has looked at me many times. My God, you got a lot of inflammation. Has even put me on some stuff to try to pull the inflammation down. You've got something, Scott Jansen, that Glenn Baker needs.
Absolutely. Fast.Eat.Live, number one, but Action Hero is even a bigger level for you. So I think we plug it in. Here's what I would make I would love to have all that blood work stuff that you have done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when the time you had the last blood panel.
It's been a couple of months.
Oh, perfect. That's fine. We can use that as your baseline. Give me 90 days, and then we jump on Fast.Eat.Live. And the cool part about it is you're not going to be metabolically flexible right away. It takes 4 to 6 weeks, but your mitochondria gets bigger and stronger. They get more numerous in size. Autophagy, and I could clearly talk for hours about this. This is what my keynote speech is at the end of the month up in Tennessee. But it's about longevity. It's about what do I know, all the secrets of what I've trained the stars. But the truth is it's all biblical. So everything that Fast.Eat.Live is based on is that reset. So you give me 4 to 6 weeks of just baby stepping into our Fast.Eat.Live fast. Our fast is super unique, and that's why I don't like intermittent fasting. I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody about intermittent fasting, and I don't think it's effective. Matter of fact, I told you earlier, I think it's a cult. We're designed to have fellowship with people. That's what God designed us. It's in our heart. He's in our heart, and then we're supposed to be with our people. That's the number one and number two things that our body's called to do. That's what controls our stress levels.
Right.
The second you tell somebody, oh, I can't eat because I can only eat in this little window, you're playing mind games. You've made a bunch of rules that don't exist. And I can tell you scientifically, you're not fasting long enough to burn through your glycogen stores, which we know are about a 24-hour day. You're not burning through those, and you're not going to get to healing. So you mentioned your eyes earlier. Let me tell you, one of my slides, which you're going to see because you're going to get our little program here. But you know, the father of medicine, Hippocrates, they literally have doctors take the Hippocratic Oath. The reason why is Hippocrates took the most notes. You know, so he's a Greek physician. He took crazy amount of notes, and we can look right at him and see how he treated people. So Hippocrates would see somebody that came to him, and if they didn't have, you know, a spear or a sword or a broken leg from falling, but they were complaining that they were unhealthy, he would look at them, and at the top of their chart, he would actually put hypochondriac. This is where we get the word hypochondriac. We think it means you're sick all the time and something's wrong with you, and we use it as a derogatory term now. Oh, that person's a hypochondriac. What it really means in Latin is under the cartilage. So he, as a doctor, would be like, I can't see what's affecting them, but I know it's in the gut. And so he'd type in hypochondriac or write in hypochondriac. And then how did he treat them? He would fast them until their symptoms went away. And then to heal them, he'd give them cultured vegetables.
Okay. There's some deep stuff that we're going to have to talk about, Scott.
Very deep. But this system back here is designed for everybody. It is the new American diet. That's literally going to be the label of my book. I'll do a little shout out to him here. I was looking for publishers forever. I've been, dealing with some and dealing with editing and doing these things. Ultimately, Don Newman, a pastor in Florida, if you wouldn't believe how God just puts these things in place, right? He had Zulon Press, and they literally laid him off after working there for like 20 something years. He was the VP for the company. So he now has been called. He went through his own journey. He now has been called to start Porchlight Publishing. So he's literally going to start a Christian book called Porchlight Publishing, and he's taking my first 2 books. I'm going to be one of his first authors. So I'm very excited to work with him. He's in the same boat you are, trying to get leaner because he realized his impact for the Lord and his longevity matters. When we sleep at night, it matters what we did during the day. It matters what we eat. So all of those things are affected. So if you're not getting the appropriate amount of sleep, if you're not fueling your body well, then of course you're not going to have any energy.
Right. Scott, thanks for coming on the show today, man. I want to ask you to stick around afterwards. We'll chat in the back room for just a minute. Guys, go to Fast.Eat.Live.com. I've got it streaming right down here. Fast.Eat.Live.com. You can't finish this fight if you're not healthy. And my butt's been used to being just an athlete my whole life. Scott, I'm not like you. I wasn't naturally great at anything. My first year in wrestling, I lost every single match that I wrestled, every one. By the time I'm a senior, LSU's looking at me and different people, and I was recruited into a college wrestling program. Mine was different. Mine was working hard like a maniac and just getting strong. So I've been used to being able to work my way out of problems my whole life. I can't work out of this one. This one's going to take some help, and it's going to take some guidance from somebody who knows a lot more than me. So, guys, I'm committing to make some changes this year. It's not New Year's Eve. It is now September. My birthday's coming up in a couple of weeks. We are getting ready to launch a fundraiser. And before we do that, I'm going to show you my little reel, that we just got back from New York in July. We took little Joshua home with us to New York, and he had a chance to walk for the first time in almost 3 years. Let me show you this. We'll talk about it, and then we'll be ready to go.
So I had a 60 millimeter mortar that landed 3 feet in front of me, and so it didn't cook off. And so it technically they would consider it to be a dud, but it wasn't a dud. It had a broken propeller on it. I got pictures of it. I carry with me and stuff. It's about the size of a 1.5 liter bottle, but it has kill radius about 25 meters, 20 to 25 meters. So basically, if that round would have went off, then confirmed dead would have been 20 to 25 meters. Been 31 months since I've been able to stand on even with a brace, or being able to take one single step. So it's been 31 months to the day yesterday.
And then God leaned in and he said, you know what? You're going to do a foundation. You're going to be the one to help these boys, and some girls, I'm sure, get to walking again, back on their feet.
It became so real when we physically came here and I physically got to see face to face to that unit, and knowing that, I mean, like I said, it's pretty much like an avatar. I felt like I plugged in and we became one, like I was breathing with it, it just incredible. I mean, I can't even imagine, I can't even describe the feeling that I have. But it was like deep down inside of me, it's like, you know what, I felt like I can fight again. I really am able to stand again, and I'm like, I can do this.
I guess the sense of pride, to stand tall. No matter what height you are, not a jab at Glenn, but just to stand, I think is huge. We take it for granted.
Guys, that was Joshua and Crystal home. I'm still mad at Crystal for giving me a short jab in the middle of a serious moment, but that was his first time to stand up and hug his wife in almost 3 years. That was the first time for him to take a step in almost 3 years. The technology's out there, and we're going after it. The company's coming in out of France. Their take-home model is being FDA approved. We're hoping to have it by the end of the year, but we got to have your help. We got to have your help. I've spent everything out of my pocket that there's possible to spend, and there's still another $150,000 that's going to need to be brought together for us to be able to pay for that for this young man. Go to givesendgo.com/finishthisfight. givesendgo.com/finishthisfight. Give what you can. Don't take food off your table. Don't miss a light payment. Don't hurt yourself. But maybe don't go through the McDonald's or drive-through and get that number 3 value meal that you like or whatever. That's $10. That's $15. Every dollar and every donation that gets us one step closer. I want you to be on the lookout. The website's almost done at finishthisfight.us. finishthisfight.us. We've got the fundraiser side set up. We're going to be launching the Walk for a Hero, Joshua's story, in the next 2 weeks. Be on the lookout. I want you to take part in this. This is a walkathon that you'll get to do from your home, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a social media hit. It's going to be a way to raise some great money and to get some eyes on what we're doing. Y'all be a part of the solution. Get up off the couch and do something. And you know what? At the end of the day, Uncle Glenn loves you. Scott Jansen, thanks for coming on with me today. Tomorrow, I've got Dr. Lynn Bear. Dr. Lynn Bear, MD. He's a man that has actually been a victim of a DEW. He was hit with a microwave gun in the head and is now in suffering with the Havana syndrome. We're going to talk about that. Yeah, this week's been full of conspiracy theories. Today was full of some real great information. Scott, you and I are going to get together. But for the rest of you, Uncle Glenn loves you, and I'm going to see you tomorrow. I'm out.
Forward, halt, left, 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 right. Your left, 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 right.
Arkansas boy with a lifelong plan took the oath like his old man, then turned around proud and shook his hand. L.A. kid stood right behind, took a deep breath and signed on the line, while tears streamed from his mama's eyes. They hopped right up on that Greyhound bus, swapping stories. They laughed and cussed, and they talked about the girls that they loved. They made a pact, shined up their boots, got the call before it hit